Well, good morning or good afternoon, everybody. It's Rich Big Daddy Salgado, and I'll tell you, I always promise all the viewers and listeners that I'm going to bring the best of the best. And this next guest does not even need an introduction, but I'm going to introduce him the way Big Daddy knows how to, because for several reasons. This guy's the guy that got me involved getting in front of a microphone with radio and we have a lot of stories to tell, but without further ado, my man, Scott Ferrall. What's up, Scotty boy?
Big Daddy, my man. You finally dragged me into the studio to do the show, but for a grim reason, the Grim Reaper. But I love you, and you know I'd do anything for you, and you and I go way back. Great friends in life and in broadcasting and in sports and in New York and in eating and drinking and partying and weddings and divorces and women and gambling and I mean, what haven't we done? Partying, dunking, swimming, stealing, lying, cheating. That's from my end.
I think you summed up our whole story right there on all those words. But it's funny how I recall when we first met. We'd met through one of your former employees, and you were working at the Howard Stern channels, and you had that kick-ass show every night, Monday through Fridays, and
right.
And here I was brought into this whole new element. And just being there the first couple of times, I was like, wow, this is really a different outlook on things, and how we or how you let's say commingled sports and everything else in between from A to Z was was incredible to watch and listen.
Well, I mean, I remember, listen, I don't remember much, Big Daddy. I have early Alzheimer's, but I have great fond memories of you being in the studio every week at Howard Stern. And I mean, it just was the funniest stuff ever. Like the laughing that went on, like it was like people having shifting bowels. I mean, we were laughing so hard and doing so many stupid things and making fun of so many people. And you were bringing in a lot of, let's say, A-list celeb athletes. And it just became this gigantic thing. I mean, in studio was incredible. When you went to like events, it was even better, like the Pro Bowls in Hawaii. I remember one of my favorite shows you ever did was when you were at the Pro Bowl in Hawaii at the pool, and every single player you put on was hammered. They were all drinking Mai Tais at the pool. And I mean, as the show went on, they got sloppier and worse by the guests. But they were all so hilarious because they were all hammered and they were falling in the pool. Everybody was drunk. Everybody was eating pig. It was a gigantic luau that the NFL had. And I just remember, I mean, everyone, every single superstar, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, they all came on the show because of you. I had never seen anybody in my life in 38 years of broadcasting that has more juice than you with these players, whether it's the NFL, the NHL, etc., and just the business coastal advisors, what you do for people's bottom line, estates, money, careers, advice, being there for them, being loyal, being like more of a friend than a business associate. I always thought you were incredible how you had these connections with these guys and like bonding. I'll never forget you brought Strahan to do a pilot of a TV show with me in the city by the Garden one day, and we sat at a restaurant. Now you got to remember, this guy's making, $20 million a pop doing TV shows. He's got a schedule from hell. And meanwhile, he took the time out of his hectic life and he sat there with us for 4 hours, shoving food in his face and taping the show. And he probably would have rather been in federal prison than doing it. But he did it for you because you have that kind of juice. And I mean, all that stuff's just super fun memories for me. And I made a million friends out of it, from Stray to Tuck to you name it, Glazer and everyone that you introduced, Joe Buck, it goes on and on. PK Subban, one after the next. Fighters, boxers, MMA guys, NFL guys, NHL guys. Now, I've been in the league for a long time, but they all knew me as an announcer and a funny guy, but you made me a lot of friends. So you and I have that kind of relationship.
Absolutely. And I always have a fond, my fondest memories were the one time when we brought, remember Thomas Dimitrov and Nick Pope to the set. That had to be one of the most, I think that was the first time you ever had an NFL GM in studio. And we kept telling everybody that, no, Nick Polk was the vice president, and that's the reason we're here, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'll tell you, the response they got back in Atlanta was hilarious because, and the one thing that I always laugh about still is you have these relationships because, I mean, like one day I get a phone call and Thomas Dimitrov's like, yeah, Big Daddy, did you hear the show last night? And I was like, no, I was actually whatever. He's like, yeah, I did Scott's show. And I'm like, of course you did. You don't need me to go through. You don't have to go through me to get to Scott. You guys are boys, man. You do what you need to do. And, and Doug Hendrickson, and, it goes on.
Oh, God.
And Doug is one of my closest friends in the agent business. He's a client as well, just like you are. And
Dougie Fresh.
Dougie Fresh is the man, and I have utmost love and respect for that agent. And he's not an agent; he's my boy. You know what I mean?
I mean, honestly, could he be any cooler? Like, this guy is so cool. I mean, he's Fonzie cool. I mean, what a guy! And over the years, it's so funny. All those, friendships that you started for me, like. I mean, Doug has been on the show 100 times. Thomas has been on the show 100 times. It's weird. When Thomas finally, left the Falcons or whatever, I had a long talk with him one day. Our relationship went beyond just doing shows. He called me up and we had a heart-to-heart about, what I thought of his talents outside of being a brilliant GM. I thought he could be a super talent on TV and radio talking about the business. And, much like you dabble in everything, like running guys' careers, you also do a ton of TV, a ton of radio, podcasts. You're a lover. You're a connoisseur of food. You know how to throw parties. I know he could do anything in life and do it well. I told him, I would do anything for him, get him a gig in television. I thought he'd be great on TV, hammering teams about what mistakes they're making with caps and players and contracts. And, they don't have a lot of GMs that do that. There's a couple, but I thought he would have been fantastic at it. So, in essence, my relationship with you, it exceeded going on the air. It became... friendships where we would go to like dinner, City Lobster with bibs on, sucking down lobsters and beers, talking bad about people. That was mostly for me. You guys never talk bad about anybody, but I do, and I'm good at it. And so I would make everyone at the table laugh. And you just introduced Ray Anderson. He introduced me to so many important people. Our boy Roger Saffold and his dad. Rodgers had a brilliant career. I don't think I would have ever met friends like I have because you're that special of a person. You introduce your friends to me, and then they become my friends, and then it's just the craziest bond that we've all developed over the years because of you.
Well, you know what? Listen, I'm always grateful, and meeting you was a great thrill for me, and it was funny at the same time because in the beginning I was like, well, yeah, I do have Sirius, but I never really listened to radio at night. And then all of a sudden here I was, listening to you, and then all of a sudden here I am in studio where we were doing that Big Daddy Wednesdays, and we would have Larry Fitzgerald call in, Ted Nolan, Steve Spagnuolo. I mean, it was like a whole who's who, and everybody's like, Big Daddy, what? Like, and at first, I never warned anybody that it was Sirius.
Right.
So, all of a sudden, well, what the fuck, and this and that. And, oh, wait a minute, can you say that? It's like, Big Daddy, did he just say what I thought? Yeah, he did. He didn't stutter. Yes, this is not. There's no rating. It's XXX here. So whatever comes out, and then you had guys that would not normally curse. All of a sudden, they start cursing back. The best one was you and Teddy Nolan because he really got into it.
Right.
And we were going back and forth. And both of you were cursing, and it was like we're sitting there like just laughing. I don't even want to interrupt. I just want to sit there and keep laughing and listening to you. And then, the next day he tells me, he goes, wow, Big Daddy, that show's pretty intense. Yeah. There's no holds bar, man. They just let it rip, and what happens, and what comes out, comes out.
Well, they never let me do that again, right? Like, so I left there after 8 years. I did Howard forever. It was great. It was the best job I've ever had, bar none. But like, I've told you this before. Like, the writing was on the wall for me. I had, Howard's agent was my agent at the time, and it all kind of came together because of that, right? In short. And then, after like 8 years, I think Howard wanted to change the channels a lot, more about him and less about all these 1 hour specials and less about, that kind of thing, comedy and Miserable Men and King of All Blacks and all these different shows that they did. I can't even remember all of them.
Yeah.
But, all I know is that, like, they asked me to, talk to other people at the network, other big channels about the feasibility of moving me. And when that kind of started, the writing was on the wall for me that it was time to move on. And I was right, because in not so many words, it wasn't going to last. And I didn't think it should have either. I always wondered what I was doing on his channels. It was like a miracle for me because, he's not a sports fan, Howard. And when he says he is, he's lying. He doesn't care about sports at all. He'll go to a Knick game for a couple quarters to be seen, I think. And, but the bottom line is that I would have never left there because it was like the coolest gig ever. Like, I got away with murder. And it was so much fun. And I remember guys like Spagnola, et cetera, would, go on and they would be so stunned at what was coming out of my mouth. They would just, like, their reactions were so great because they were scared to death that it was going to, like, come back to haunt them or get them in trouble or whatever. So I ended up going back to CBS, and I did 8 years there. And then now I'm at, Sports Grid with FanDuel and doing sports betting television and national radio. It's funny, I'm back on Sirius again now on channel 204. We have a dedicated channel, Sports Grid, and I'm back on there. But I've never been able to be who I was on Howard 101. Like, that was the greatest freedoms and, the greatest content and the funniest shows and no rules, no laws, no limits, no love lost radio that I ever got to do or have ever done. And so when I went back to CBS and when I went to Sports Grid, I got to be honest, it sucks because, like, I like doing the shows, but they're just not as good as that show. Nothing is ever compared like to that First Lover, Big Daddy. You know what I mean? Like, that First Lover is the one. Everything else pales in comparison. I miss doing the show with you. I miss Wednesday nights with Big Daddy. I miss going out and shoving food in our face and then going and doing the show at, half in the bag. And I miss my bosses telling me, you should get drunker when you do the show because the show's funnier. I don't have bosses like that anymore.
Wow.
I have to do clean, like, family sports television, clean family sports radio, rated G. And I got to tell you, it's really terrible. I mean, it's like going from that to that sucks. It's like going to federal prison.
But I'll tell you, the one thing, it was funny, like when you mentioned me going to Pro Bowls and whatnot, I remember when the Pro Bowl the one year got switched to Miami. And I'm sitting at the Clevelander, and my boy says to me, hey, where are you going? I got to go make a phone call because I got to call into my boy's radio show. And I was grabbing guys by the Clevelander. And I think Aaron Rodgers was one of them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Aaron. Oh, no. You know what? You know where I got you, Aaron Rodgers? I was at the races in San Diego. Not the Preakness, not
the Breeders' Cup.
No, not the Breeders' Cup. It's the one. It's a big one, and I'm sitting there, and I'm with 5 quarterbacks. So I don't really know the other ones, but Aaron, I do know. So I remember I put Aaron on the phone with you, and he was like, "Big Daddy, really? It's Scott Ferrall?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's Scott Ferrall here." Boom, and you guys are going on for about a 20-minute conversation, and I'm like, well, all right, he got enough of him. So, but yeah, those are fond memories that I have of those. But like I said, the Clevelander was one of the funnest because I was shuttling guys like as they were walking out. I'm like, hey, Big Daddy, what do you want? Hey, talk to my boy. We're on a radio show right now, and you can say whatever you want, curse, do whatever. And guys were just jumping on. I was like, oh my God, this is like
I remember
from my book.
I remember going to your golf tournament in Long Island, and one of my favorite memories was a Crime Dog. I'm sitting on the driving range with Fred McGriff, and Fred's like a big fan of the show. He won't admit that publicly, like 95% of the other athletes that won't admit that they're friends with me. They don't even know me. When they're around anything that matters, they don't know me. But when they come on the show, they have a blast. And I mean to tell you, Fred McGriff on the tee box at the driving range at Ohika, going live on the radio from there with that guy and him telling me baseball stories and talking about life and talking about being a fan of mine. Like, so that's really flattering and humbling to me that all these athletes love the show and have enjoyed laughing to the stuff I do on the air. I never, expected any of that. I just never thought I mattered that much. I thought the show was cool and I thought I was an idiot and it was funny. And I tried to make people laugh and have fun and enjoy like a couple hours of their day. I was always striving to make people, listen longer than normal. Like, in the business, it's kind of a half-hour Jimmy where people drive to work and listen to the radio and then they drive home and listen to it. I wanted them to listen for 4 hours. I wanted them to be jonesing for the show every day, Monday through Friday, that they would, break records for how long that my ratings were indicative of that, of people Howard and I had that ability to keep an audience for the length of the show. And that's when, in not so many words, that kind of makes you a badass when you can make them stay for 4 hours. And I was able to do that. And it was because of, friends like you and all your connections and all those players. And then they had so much fun doing the show. And then, those relationships grew from there. And so it's just been kind of cool for me. And what an experience, I can always say it's weird because my kids I'll be driving them with their friends to something or whatever. And these kids ask me, do you know this guy? Do you know that guy? Do you know this guy? Do you know that guy? And really because of you, I used to get a lot of athletes on the show, like any sports radio show, but it was different with you because they became like friends instead of guests. And then it was always the Letterman effect with Big Daddy. As you know, he was my hero, and going on Letterman twice for me was better than sex. And the way he would invite people back was if he liked you. And, Howard and others, Marv Albert, they go on there multiple times over the years. I went on a couple times, and that was so exotic for me. And that's what I wanted for my audience. I wanted all of your friends to want to come back for more every year. And it just turned out that way because of you. They all became so close, and those relationships, the reason we're on here today is Tom Reich, and he was the perfect example of that. The greatest guy I think you and I have ever met. Tom was such an unbelievable genius and the best agent ever. Like, and I think even Dougie Fresh would admit that. He set the bar in the 70s and 80s for excellence extraordinaire, like really on a different level than they make them today, Big Daddy. I mean,
yeah, look at this.
I mean, there he is, Le Magnifique. Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, come on. He represented Lemieux. I told 34C, my wife, I said, you know, she wanted to sleep with Mario. And when I introduced her to Mario, I said, listen, Mario, do me a favor. Will you impregnate my wife? And then I'll take it from there. And then he's like, you're crazy, dude. And I go, listen, I'm going to go into the locker room for like 20 minutes. You guys just go take care of business. And then I'll just take it from there. Just whatever you do, knock her up. And then I'll be able to convert those loins into, you know, an ongoing cash stream for my family forever. Because he was my favorite player my whole life of any sport, Mario. The greatest athlete I ever saw perform on a day-to-day basis and coming back from cancer and everything else. But of course, his agent was Tom Reich, and Tom only took the best. And I mean, it goes on and on. Joe Morgan, George Foster, all the Pirates, Dave Parker, Manny Sanguian, legends from the, you know, 71 and 79 World Series, those Bucco teams in Pittsburgh that mattered back when they mattered. And, you know, he's a Pittsburgh guy. And I just thought he was so smart that when you introduced him to me and we became friends, now he was a fan of my show, obviously, and I didn't know that, right? But I was a Pittsburgh kid, and to have that guy come into my life because of you, I'd have to say, Big Daddy, you know, beyond you, who I love till the day I die, I'd say Tom was the greatest influence you've ever put in my life. I mean that. Like, you know, I told you one day that I wanted him to be my agent because he was so smart and just incredible and crafty and a litigator and a negotiator. He always gave me advice when we went to dinner about how to negotiate deals without being my agent. He taught me all the tricks of how to use leverage and things of this nature to your advantage. And we'd go to dinner and he would pound bottles of wine. And the more he drank, the smarter he got. It was the strangest thing I'd ever seen. The more he drank, the more he got, you know, clever with what he was teaching me. And I would sit there and eat steaks and listen to this guy. And then when he wasn't around, I would always tell you, how do I get that guy to represent me? Because he was older. You know, at the time you brought him into my life, I knew him when he was like probably from, you know, I'd say 68 till death, right? Yeah. And I wanted him to represent me, but he wasn't doing that anymore, really. Yeah, he was. And he would go to dinner with me and do my show in the studio, and in breaks and at dinner, he would teach me how to basically run my career even without an agent. He's like, you can be your own agent. Here's what you need to do. I mean, those tips and those moments, honestly, Big Daddy, they were the most meaningful moments of my career. And when you, you know, told me he died, oh my God, I almost barfed. I fell over. I hunched over in my house and I got sick. I literally got sick to my stomach. And you know that's true. It made me so devastated that we lost him the other day that I'll never be the same without him. It's a huge loss. It was like I lost my mom and dad, and it was like that. It was like losing a father for me. That's how much I thought of Tom.
He was such an influence in my life and even later on in life because, you know, obviously living in Pittsburgh and I became friends with him and his nephew, Steve Rich, who was another guy that I love and was so influential in helping me get business going and getting me out there. A lot of people don't know this, but, and I know you do, I started in hockey first. Being a football guy, here I was living in Pittsburgh, and that's when they were rolling. And, you know, I met Mario and the whole team knew who I was by the end of the second cup, because I was going to so many games and I was going out to dinners with Mario and his agents, Tom, Steve, and you know, Kevin Stevens and the entourage, and it was great. Then I moved to New York and I was still working with Tom and Steve, but then I got back into football. And I remember I tried to bring football to them, but they kind of didn't really, it didn't work. So Steve said, there's another agent in town here, and who happened to be my other mentor was Ralph Sindrich.
Yep.
And I started working with Ralph, and between those two groups, I learned so much, especially how to keep your cool, how to not curse people out, I had this bouncer mentality. You're going to need insurance, or you're going to sign it off, and it wasn't just like that. And so it was kind of funny, but I owe those three people so much that I don't know if I could ever repay it back. But
Right.
I have so many fond memories, especially, Tom was starting to come to New York quite often. And like you said, I used to say, Tom, you want to do Scott's show? Yeah, let's go eat and let's go. And then we'll go upstairs. So, of course, we went down to Del Frisco's. We all broke bread and up we went. And, Tom would hang until midnight.
Yeah.
So, that's the one thing that he always enjoyed. And he enjoyed it because you were the host and you guys, same bread, same backyard, same love for the Penguins. That's why I'm wearing this Penguins jersey.
Right.
In honor of Tom, in honor of you. I got a nice picture back there of me and Lemieux that we took when Tom did his record deal to make him like the highest paid guy ever.
Right.
In the, what was that? Late 90s, late 90s. And a memorable evening. And we can go on and talk about Tom all night long.
I want to show you a couple pictures in here. I don't know how this whole thing works. I'm not Mr. Technology, but hopefully you'll be able to see them. Well, first of all, let me say that Tom was the greatest storyteller ever. Ever. I mean, if you want to hear, he represented Doc Ellis. If you want to hear about Doc Ellis pitching a no-hitter on acid, there's only one guy that you listen to this story, because the stories of Ellis doing that have been, butchered over the years. There was only one guy that could tell the real story, and it was Tom Reich. But I want to show you a couple things. First of all, this is one of my favorite shots I have in my studio. This is of Yager. Let's see if you can see it if I put it on there. That's actually a finger painting of Yager.
Wow, that's a great painting.
That's great. This is one of the coolest things I have. Secondly, the Penguins mean more to me than my family, as you know. I love my wife and my children more than life itself. But the Penguins are just, that's a 56-year love affair, like a hot romance I got going with them. So I got the Stanley Cup. Here you go. I got the Stanley Cup there.
Wow.
And then over here is my favorite one that I got, because, speaking of guys that won't admit that they're friends with me, here's Le Magnifique. Okay. Now, even better, signed by Tom and Mario. You see that Tom Reich and Mario signed it. And then here he is busting a move on Kelly Rudy. And then just for fun, here's the Howard Stern Fight Week. I used to host that on Howard 101. And then the last one I want to show you is one of my favorites. And I know this is one of Tom's favorites of all time. We used to talk about this till we were blue in the face. Hopefully you can see it. This is Bill Mazeroski hitting the bottom of the ninth inning walk-off home run to beat the Yankees in 1960. And it's signed by Mazeroski. And I was given that by my father when he died. And let's just say, if you're, thinking about robbing me, it's worth a lot of money. There you go. That's the shot of Mazeroski.
Oh, wow.
See that, Big Daddy?
Yeah, I got it. I see it.
And how
Oh,
great
that's
is
a
that?
great
And then
shot.
this is the 1919 Black Sox scandal. And like everything I have in my studio is really kind of, obviously great sports memorabilia, but a lot of it is about Pittsburgh. And there's no cooler person. Well, first of all, Tom's the greatest guy ever, right? And I knew Mario long before I knew Tom. And then we had a special relationship, Lemieux. And what was great about it was he was one of those guys that he would never admit that he knew me. He would never admit that he knew me because he was all business and he was such a professional. He was very quiet and he was very reserved. You know that. And he was always just like checking people out and wondering what was wrong with them. And he definitely had that face when he was around me. He would always look at me like, what in God's name is wrong with you? When I covered him on a day-to-day basis, you have to understand, I covered him from the day he was drafted until they won the Stanley Cups. And the bond and friendship we made over the years, you got him to call me on my birthday. That guy wouldn't do a radio interview if it hit him in the head. He wants nothing to do with anything, media, TV, only for his foundation, only for cancer charity, only for raising money for kids. That's what he does. He doesn't do funny shows. He doesn't do shock jock shows. He doesn't do appearances like that. But he would always come on my show. And it was because of you and because of Tom. And literally, I'm not even kidding. He knows I offered him up to my wife. I'm like, just, please get her pregnant for me. That's all I need. And then we'll be good from here. But I became friends with all those guys, Yager, everyone, the old 2-9er, Phil Bork, every great Penguin that, Stevens you talk about, all of them. Paul Coffey. I used to drag race with Paul Coffey. I mean, Tom represented all the players that mattered in Pittsburgh sports history, every one of them. Every player that ever mattered in Pittsburgh, Tom Reich represented. And what was great about Tom was, because when you're an agent, let's just be clear, they're all filthy rich and they pretend like they aren't.
Hey, that's like
so much money that he had a pad in Malibu, he had a pad in New York City, and he had a pad in Pittsburgh. And he used to always tell me, I'll see you when I come back to New York. I go, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to swing through Pittsburgh for a few weeks. Then I'm going out to LA. I'm going to chill out there for a few months. You'll hear from me. I'll see you when I'm back in New York. And no one, including anyone there's no one in your life that ate at better restaurants than Tom Reich. That guy ate at the best. Like, you always are doing videos from great restaurants. You have more friends in the restaurant business than anyone I've ever met in my life. You and I eat more than, we're going to the electric chair. But I have never eaten at better restaurants than anyone that you and I and Tom Reich. Jesus Christ. I mean, the steaks, the tomahawk steaks and bottles of wine. Oh, my God. I've never left a restaurant with that guy without being gassed until I finally quit drinking. I mean, that guy made me stop drinking. He drank so much wine. It's your fault I'm an alcoholic, Big Daddy. You're the one that introduced me to his ass.
Well, remember I'll tell you, his favorite restaurant in New York City was Biche. And we would go there, and it was like royalty walked in there. I've eaten with him there so many times, and the food always outstanding. Unfortunately, it's not there any longer, but
fail.
Del Frisco's was another spot. And then there was a Chinese restaurant that he loved that I can't remember the name of it, but it was
what was your restaurant that you used to take me to with your boy that was the head chef down at the Garden where we filmed the show?
That was man, it's still there. It's still there. I can't remember the name of
the street.
That was a good spot.
And you knew the head chef, and he let us film that TV show in there. I got to tell you, what's cool about that show? We did. Here's a secret for you. So we did that show with Stray, right? And we took it to MSG and grilling. What was it? Grilling with Ferrall or something like this, or something
like that. No, we took it
grilling. We were, doing something. Anyway, I don't even remember, but we did the pilot, and Stray did it, and we had it edited. You were on it. It was the greatest show. It really was. And we took it to MSG, and they said no, and we were like, God damn, I can't believe they said no. And then like a year later, they started the show themselves. They like stole our idea, and they did it with those comedians. Like, I forget what the guy's name is. You know what I'm talking about. MSG did it for years, that dinner show they did. They stole our idea after we filmed it with Stray and you at that restaurant.
Yeah.
Those scumbags stole our idea and started that show where they interviewed athletes at a restaurant. And with that funny comedian, I can't think of his name. He's hilarious, the black guy. I can't think of his name.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'll tell you, I'm going to have an opportunity at redemption, because the more and more that I've been doing TV and more and more that I'm doing podcasts, I'm working on something that hopefully will be hitting the airwaves in September, and it's going to be a sports business show. And I'm bringing in the top of the top to make sure that we stay on top and no one takes this idea and no one steals it or no one does any changes to it. It is going to be about me and the co-host, and we're going to kick ass, and I can't wait to share with all of America.
That's great. I'll bet it'll be great. I mean, everything you touch turns to gold, so I'll support anything you're doing. I know it'll be cool. I mean, just the memories of all that stuff, like going to dinner with that guy, like there was nothing better because it was periodic, right? We were always all so busy and we never saw each other enough, and life happens. And then, every 6 months to a year, Big Daddy, Tom Reich, and I would go out to dinner. And it's funny, I called up Sweet Lou, my producer Lou Pellegrino, who was so fond of Tom. He was the only person I called to tell the bad news that he had passed the other day. I told Lou, because Lou used to go to dinner with us too, because Lou couldn't get enough.
Lou is the reason you and I met.
Right, but I mean, Lou loved you and loved Tom so much. Like, whenever that guy came into town, it was like we were having dinner with Jesus. I mean, it was just so huge. It was like, oh my God, Tom Reich is taking us to dinner. I mean, we would all get so jacked up for that moment when that phone rang and you said, it's time. And we would go out to dinner with you guys. And I mean, it was like a 4-hour experience. I mean, it wasn't like,
dinner. And it was like, thank God the show's upstairs. We ain't got to like go anywhere. We just have to get on an elevator and walk 100 yards.
I can't believe he's gone. It sucks so bad because I wrote his wife, and you saw me. You and I both put out some tweets and stuff, and I put his picture out. That picture I put up of him having a screwdriver at breakfast on the beach in Malibu is just such the epitome of who he was. He had that smile on his face, and it was so funny because in his career he used to let his beard go, and he would just grow that beard. Oh my God, he looked like Santa Claus. But he had. It was so funny because people would say, what is going on there with this scruffy old guy? And then, Letterman did that too. Letterman rocked the Santa Claus beard after he retired and started doing stuff on Netflix. He still has that, 10-foot beard. But Tom used to just let it go crazy, right? And let his hair go crazy and his beard go crazy. And people would be like, what is going on here? This guy looks homeless. Meanwhile, the guy was worth $300 million.
I'll tell you, one of my fondest memories with Tom was me and Stray flew out to Lemieux's golf outing.
Oh God!
And it was out at the owner of 84 Lumber's country club.
Nevillewood.
Yeah, it was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like me and Stray are like, where are we going?
Great course.
So yeah, it was beautiful place. But we were there just for the night. We went for the party, played the golf, and then we had a private plane take us from that was right on the course. They had a runway there. So Tom's like, as he would always say, hey, Daddy-o, can I hitch a ride back with you guys? Yeah, come on. So the three of us flew back. We took off right from there, and it was funny. The runway was small compared to the size that we had a plane that was a little bit bigger than should have been there, but that was another story for another day. It was like taking off a carrier. We went, woo! And you would have seen the three of us. We're like, what? So, and I think, Stray got to really break down and have a conversation with Tom. I kind of let them get to know each other because I know both of them well. So, we it was a quick hour and 20-minute flight, whatever it was, less than an hour, and it was fun. And then when Stray started doing Fox Thursday nights here in the city,
right?
I brought Tom because Tom wanted to see Michael, and also because Terry Bradshaw was there.
Right.
You would have heard those three going, talking and whatnot. I was sitting there and I was like, wow, it's like there's history, more history, and futuristic history all in that one area that we were all sitting in.
I mean, are you kidding? Like, Terry Bradshaw doesn't get enough credit. 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, and they never talk about him being one of the greats, but I always do. What he accomplished with the Steelers was unequaled by anybody. What they did, the Steel Curtain Steelers was amazing. I think Bradshaw kind of gets the shaft. Lemieux's got 5 Stanley Cups, 2 as a player, 3 as an owner. He saved the Penguins from bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And from moving to Kansas City, he and Ron Burkle, the grocery magnate, became good friends with. So, and then you introduced me to Cindrich as well, and Ralph's a great guy. Been on the show a million times, but I mean, Bradshaw and Lemieux, unbelievable. 9 trophies. I mean, who are you kidding? That's just what Bradshaw won. The Steelers, won 2 more, so they got 6 rings. So, and the Penguins have 5 Stanley Cups. I always tell people when the Penguins lose to the Islanders in the playoffs every year, I always remind people that we have 5 Stanley Cups. Have a nice day. See ya.
Hey, and a lot of people don't know this, but Tom was very influential in that, bringing Ron Burkle and Mario, making that connection and saving the Penguins. Tom was behind the scenes, had a lot to do, and again, you know what? I'll miss my friend and mentor, and may he rest in peace up there, and he will be missed. He will be missed.
Fly with the Angels, Tom. What a badass. I loved him. And Burkle is funny. When they won the Cups again, and in 08 they lost, 09 they won, 16 they won, 17 they won. So they won back-to-back in 91 and 92, and then 16 and 17. But after they won it in, I think it was 09, I did that Tony Hawk Stand Up for Skate Parks event. I emceed it at his mansion in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, his house, yeah.
Right, so he used to have the event at his house. So I got to meet him, and he couldn't believe that I was there because he had heard about me through Tom and through Mario. And so I finally got to meet their, partner, Mr. Burkle. And he was so cool to me. When I got home, that's the last thing I'll tell you. When I got home, a month later, I get this box in the mail, and the guy sent me gold Stanley Cup Penguin cufflinks. I mean, wow. They're so nice. Dude, they're in a safety deposit box. They're so nice and valuable. I won't even wear them. I almost fell over, but that's the kind of people that Tom and Mario and you and all these guys, those are the kinds of people and kinds of friends you have. Guys like that do things like that for a guy like me that doesn't matter. Very special people that mean a lot to me, and I've always loved all of them. And I'll miss Tom like no other. And I'm glad we got together today to talk about him and all the great fond memories. I'll never forget Tom Reich. He was an absolute titan and maverick and badass. And he taught me so much about life and how to enjoy life and how to live life to the fullest and to be smart and how to negotiate. Everything that guy taught me, I'll take with me the rest of my day. So thanks for introducing him to me, Big Daddy. I love you.
Hey, listen, you do matter. You're an important guy. You're a dear friend. I owe you a lot of gratitude as well. And, I love you back. And I love 34C and the kids. And I need to come out to your pool and enjoy life like those in lifestyles and the rich and famous.
Yeah, listen, you always had a good time at the Ferrall Aquatic Center. It is a lot like, for people that don't know, it's a lot like the Animal Kingdom on TNT, the show about the brothers in California that rob people and kill people. And they have that great pool in the backyard in the gazebo and where they do all their dirty work. That's what my backyard was like for Big Daddy. He would come over, chill, go to the Ferrall Aquatic Center, barbecue, women all over him, spilling beer. He had rib sauce on the side of his face. Mafia passed out and they blew shaving cream all over him like it was a sexual moment. I mean, Big Daddy is nothing but trouble. Trust me, people, nothing but trouble. When he gets out and starts partying and getting laid, I mean, it is on.
Well, hey, I'll tell you one last funny moment. I'll remember this. You'll remember this one. Do you remember Larry Fitzgerald called into the show and right away said, "So Scott, has Big Daddy ever told you about his cousins?" And I'm like, I almost bit my tongue. And you're like, "Cousins? What does that mean?" "Oh, Big Daddy didn't told you about all his cousins?" And you're like, "No, explain, Larry. What Big Daddy, what's he talking about?" I'm like, I'm going to kill him. Like I'm saying under my breath. And he's like, "Come on, Daddy, tell him. How you got cousins all over the place. They love Big Daddy. He loves his cousins." I'm like,
yeah,
I'm going to put Larry Fitzgerald on
injury reserve. He loves his cousins, all right. He's got one in every city. Big Daddy's like these big high-priced athletes like Larry. They got all that money. They got to have some fun. And they don't want anybody to know about their fun. And Big Daddy and I know all about their fun, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, you know what? As I was once told, Big Daddy, if you ever wrote a tell-all book, you'd probably be dead after it came out.
I believe that. I'm not an author. I'm not going to write a book. I always told you I'm not writing a book. Everybody wants me to write a book. And if I told those stories, I'd be dead. So I know everybody's dirty laundry.
I am going to write a book, but not that kind of book. I'm going to write a book because I've led an incredible journey. I've been fortunate. I've been blessed.
You should be dead.
I should be dead. I've survived death twice, and 3 times. My divorce was a deadly incident, but we won't talk about that. I've moved on from all that mess.
I hate those people.
Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, there's so much. And again, Scott, thank you for taking the time out to be on my show. I love you to death, and you've always, whenever I've been down, I'll tell you, no matter what, you find out that something's going on and you give me a call, I perk up right away because it's just hearing your voice makes it happen. So
you're my dude, Big Daddy. You're my dude. Listen, I got to be in Vegas, I think. Unfortunately, for the 9th of September, I'm going out there for a Canelo fight. I got to do my job. But listen, they don't want me at that golf tournament anyway because I hit on all the women and I eat all the shrimp and I hide all the desserts and I put, desserts in my pockets and then I cheat at golf.
You're allowed to. You're allowed to. It's not serious. It's supposed to be for charity. So you can do, as long as it's my event, you can do whatever you want. You know that.
I'll tell you what, since I got to be in Vegas from the 8th to the 12th, I'll promote it while I'm in Vegas. You come on the show on TV the day before it starts, and we'll pimp it up, and we'll drive the charity home as usual for North Shore and everything for aneurysms. And I got your back. I love you, Big Daddy. Thanks for having me on the show. I finally got on your kick-ass show.
I know. Hey, real quick, I want you to tell all our viewers and listeners where they could find you on social media, because I want your world to grow even bigger. He's already got 100 million followers. I don't know if he can get any more.
So you can, on Twitter, it's @FerrallOnGrid and @Scott Ferrall. And I'm on the Sports Grid app. Is the easiest way to watch the show. I mean, I'm on every single OTT platform in the world, Roku, Sling, all of them. But I'm on TV at 4 to 6 in the afternoon, and I'm on 10 to midnight on radio. Both shows are on Sirius 204, and FerrallOnTheBench.com is where people go to get my picks. But @FerrallOnGrid, @Scott Ferrall, it's Ferrall. But you'll like it, but I don't do anything controversial on there so I don't get fired. I just kind of promote everything that's going on with the show, who's on it, guests, what I'm thinking that day. I keep it chilled and clean because I got too many friends that have gotten in trouble with that stuff. So I try to just be, try to avoid the machete, Big Daddy. You know, I can't have firings. I got kids in college.
I hear you. But real quick, one thing I left out, and I should have corrected myself and you, we're supporting our boy Jay Glazer this year with his merging veterans and players. Instead of North Shore LIJ, we're supporting Jay Glazer and his group, and we're also supporting the Orthopedic Foundation, because those guys are the people that keep us moving, that allow us to play sports and get off the IR list and get back to it.
I just played basketball Saturday, Sunday, and today, 2.5 hours all 3 days. Now I'm in atrophy, so I need to go there to get my brittle hips and knees and feet work done. And I love Jay Glazer. He's another freak. What a cool dude. Everything he does in football and in MMA, training people, getting people's heads right, doing the right thing. That guy's top shelf people for sure. So anything he's doing, I'm supporting. You know, I love you, Big Daddy. Be cool, brother. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Hey, listen, everyone out there from Big Daddy and Friends, make sure you follow my man, Scott Ferrall. And until next time, we'll see everybody real soon. Scott, I love you and thank you for coming on.